Hello, and welcome to Understanding Shakespeare. This week we'll be talking about Romeo and Juliet, a story of torrid love and tragic death. Now, I know you might be thinking that, I learned this in school.
I'm bored.
Or even, I'm learning it in school right now, and if you give me more homework, I think I'm gonna scream. A lot of times, Romeo and Juliet, or even Shakespeare in general, gets absolutely ruined for people at school. And that's a real shame because it is a truly beautiful play. Romeo and Juliet begins with a prologue, so that's where we'll start too. A prologue is kind of like the spark notes for a play. It gives you the who, the what, the where, and the why of the whole thing. So let's start with the who. Two fighting families, the Capulets and the Montagues, and their children, Romeo and Juliet. What? Romeo and Juliet's love story and eventual deaths. Where? Verona, which is a lovely city in the northern part of Italy. Why? Well, Shakespeare tells us it's because only the love and deaths of Romeo and Juliet could stop the fighting between their two families. Now, this prologue is spoken by a chorus. Choruses are very, very old, even older than Shakespeare's day. They go all the way back to Greek times. In fact, they were originally used in Greek tragedies to set the stage. So we have to ask ourselves why? Why is Shakespeare using a theatrical device that is not only from his time, but also not from his country? Well, one of the reasons is that the plotline of Romeo and Juliet is taken from a much older Greek myth, the myth of Pyramus and Thisbe. The two stories have a lot in common. They both have fighting families, as well as a lot of misunderstandings that lead to the lovers' eventual deaths. One of the main differences is the method of the lover's death. In Pyramus and Thisbe, the lovers are killed by a lion. Whereas in Romeo and Juliet, they're killed by poison. So once again, we have to ask ourselves the why behind this choice that Shakespeare has made. He's such a wonderful wordsmith, why is he stealing somebody else's story? Well, one reason is that's simply something that Shakespeare does a lot. He often takes his plot lines from older stories, specifically Greek myths. Now, why does he do this? Well, one of the reasons is so that he can do something called playing with genre. This is something that the Coen brothers do a lot today. All playing with genre is playing with the audience's expectations. When you go to a movie, you basically know what's going to happen if it's a Western. White hat's good, black hat's bad. Or if it's a horror film, the slut dies first. Or even if it's a story that you think you already know, like say, Little Red Riding Hood. What Shakespeare can do is by getting the audience to think they know what's going to happen, it's all the more surprising when he does something completely different. Now, as we all know, Shakespeare quotes make you sound very smart. So let's look at one together. A pair of star-crossed lovers take their lives. Now we're going to break it down. A pair, that's Romeo and Juliet. Of star-crossed lovers, whenever you see stars in Romeo and Juliet, which happens a lot, I want you to think fate. Now the reason for this is astrology. Nowadays we kind of think of it as a pickup line in a bar. Hey baby, what's your sign? But in Shakespeare's day, there were a lot of people who genuinely believed that the stars could predict the fate of humans here on Earth. The last part we have is take their lives, which means that they kill themselves. So there you have it, the entirety of Romeo and Juliet wrapped up into a single line. Romeo and Juliet are caused by fate to take their own lives. And there you have it, the end of the prologue. Next week we'll be talking about Act 1.